Nala sits under the vast branches of an ancient tree, looking at the distant mountains beyond her village. The setting sun casts a golden glow, but Nala's heart is heavy. Today is her last day. The village elders have chosen her for a sacred duty. One passed down through generations. She will be the sacrificial virgin to the gods, ensuring the land's fertility and protecting her people from drought and famine. Hama, Nala's mother, watches from a distance, her face filled with silent pain. She cannot speak of the impending sacrifice, but her eyes betray her sorrow. The village bursts with activity as preparations begin. Drums beat and women chant, but a dark cloud of doubt hangs over the villagers. No one dares question the God's way, yet this year's ritual feels different. The next morning, Nala walks barefoot to the altar, her white ceremonial dress flowing behind her like a ghost. The villagers gather in silence, the only sound being the rustling of leaves in the wind and the distant call of birds. The chief elder, Kofi, begins the ritual, his deep voice echoing through the still air. Nala kneels before the altar, and with solemnity, the sacred knife is lifted. It's a moment of no return, but as the blade comes down, something unexpected happens. The sky darkens unnaturally, and the ground begins to shake. 3 days after the sacrifice, the villagers gather at the riverbank for the annual celebration of a successful ritual. The crops have begun to grow and flourish, but just as the festivities begin, a figure appears at the edge of the village. It's Nala. A child sees Nala first, pointing toward her in confusion. Slowly, the crowd turns, gasping as they realize that the girl they sacrificed has returned. Dressed in the same white ceremonial gown, now stained and torn, she walks with a slow, deliberate pace. Her skin is pale, her eyes were weak. Nala walks through the center of the village, her bare feet leaving no marks on the dirt road. The villagers part for her in silence, unsure whether to follow or flee. The younger children, frightened by Nala's ghostly appearance, cling to their parents' leg, peeking out from behind them with wide, fearful eyes. The villagers gather in secret as the elders meet to discuss Nala's mysterious return. Fear spreads like wildfire, and whispers of betrayal fill the air. Some believe Nala is a blessing sent back to ensure prosperity, while others are convinced that her return signals the gods' route. Shortly after Nala's mysterious return, strange occurrences began to take place in the village. Livestock fell sick. Shadows seemed to move on their own, and children woke up screaming from the same nightmare. Nala standing at the edge of their beds, whispering in a language no one understands. The village is torn between terror and tensions grew as the elders debate what to do. Nala's behavior becomes more frightening. She no longer speaks to anyone, only staring off into the distance as if listening to voices no one else can hear. The villagers grow more afraid as Nala begins to exhibit strange powers. Plants withers at her touch, and animals follow her about. As days pass, the village descends into chaos. Crops rot overnight, and the river turns black with a foul stench. Villagers begin to fall sick, their bodies wasting away without explanation. Nala moves through the village like a ghost, untouched by the calamity around her. The villagers turn on each other, accusing one another for bringing the curse upon them. Amidst the chaos, Nala remains calm. Her eyes always feast on the mountains in the distance, as if waiting for the unknown. The community leaders, under the pressure from the worsening situation, decide they have no choice but to confront Nala directly. The elders, weakened by fear and sickness, approach her cautiously. Trembling as they gather in her hut, Nala sat waiting for them. Her once lively features now cold and distant. Her eyes clouded with a godlike presence. The council demands to know what happens after the sacrifice. Why the gods have cursed them. But Nala remained quiet, acting as if she could not see them or hear any of their spoken words. After the failed attempt of talking to Nala, the elder council decided that they must carry out a second sacrifice to appeal to the gods of their lands. Nala, without protest, walks herself to the altar, as though she knows it is her destiny. The villagers, all gathered around, watch in silent horror as the priest prepares the sacrificial knife. Nala's expression remains calm, even serene as she lies down on the altar stone. But just as the priest raises the knife, a violent gust of wind sweeps through the village, and the bright sky turned dark suddenly. A bolt of lightning strikes the altar, sending a shockwave through the village. The ground splitted, releasing a thunderous sound. The villagers ran in different directions, screaming as dark, shadowy figures rises from the earth. Nala, who was still lying on the altar, remains unarmed, her eyes glowing once more with that unnatural light. The largest of the gods, with eyes of molten fire, steps forward, its hand outstretched towards Nala. The air between them crackles with energy, as if the very essence of life and death is being woven together by unseen forces. The villagers, still scattered, watches in awe and fear. Those who had prayed for mercy, now feeling a sinking dread. realizing that Nala's return had never been a gift, but a sign of their impending doom. A cold wind sweeps through the village as the god lowers its hand, its palm hovering just above Nala's glowing body. Time seems to slow. Nala started chanting in a strange and foreign language, like a lullaby drawing the gods in closer. The villagers don't understand, but they know one thing: they are not in control of their fate anymore. The gods have come to deliver judgment. The powerful god speaks in a thunderous voice, shaking the air. The language it uses is ancient, older than the village itself. But every villager feel the meaning deep in their bones. This village has sinned. The god speaks once more, its voice echoing like thunder across the village. The village waits, breathless. Every soul is frozen in the grip of the anticipation. Their eyes locked onto Nala, whose presence feels heavier than ever before. The flames from the nearby huts cast long shadows across her face, flickering eerily as though the fire itself fears her next move. Her chest rises and falls steadily, but her glowing eyes remain fixed on the god's burning stare. The villagers, still on their knees, dare not speak. They can feel the power in the air, the dense weight of judgment hanging over them like a storm about to break. A small child cries out, quickly hushed by its mother, whose tear-streaked face reveals the terror of a mother fearing the end. The elders, once confident in their rituals, now kneeling like the rest, realizing that everything they thought they knew about the gods was a lie. The gods are not merciful. Nala slowly sits up from the altar, her body glowing faintly under the oppressive gaze of the god. Her voice, calm but filled with an unnatural echo, breaks the silence. I did not ask for this. The words are simple, yet they cut through the thick atmosphere like a blade. The villagers flinch at the sound of her voice, which no longer carries the warmth of the girl they once knew. Nala stood, her bare feet touching the cold stone of the altar, and her fingers moving across the cracks left by the lightning. Her eyes glow brighter, and the horror around her pulses as though responding to some unseen forces. She steps down from the altar, walking towards the edge of the village square, where the ground had splitted open during the god's arrival. The villagers watch her, too terrified to move, some whispering prayers to the gods for mercy, others to Nala herself. Without looking back, Nala speaks again, her voice echoing across the square. I was given to the gods as a sacrifice, but I was not taken. I was changed. She turns, her glowing eyes sweeping over the terrified crowd. You wanted the god's favor, but you did not ask what price it would cost. The largest god steps forward once more, its eyes burning like molten melter, and speaking again in his thunderous voice, shaking the very earth beneath them. You must choose. Nala's eyes narrow, and for a moment, it seemed as though she might defy even the gods. Nala spoke again, but this time, her words are like ice, chilling the hearts of the villagers. I will not sacrifice again. I will not sacrifice again. Nala repeats, her voice firm. The village has chosen its fate. Nala's final words echo through the village. Carried on the cold wind. This village is cursed. Suddenly, a cold wind sweeps through the square. The villagers shiver, feeling an unnatural chill that cuts to their bone. The sky, which had only moments ago been clear after the storm, begins to darken more. But this time, there is no rain, no lightning, only an oppressive gloom that blankets the village. Then it began. The crops in the fields, which had once flourished after Nala's return, stand withering before the villagers' eyes. Crops turn brown and dry, leaves curling up as if burned. The fruit trees, heavy with ripe bounty just moments before, rot and blacken. Their fruits falling to the ground in a sickening splatter. The villagers watch in horror as their hard-earned harvest, their only means of survival, disintegrates into dust. In the distance, a piercing scream echoes through the village. A woman stumbles out of her hut, clutching her head, her face twisted in pain. Her eyes were wide, bloodshot, and frantic, as though she is seeing something unspeakable. More screams follow, each one more desperate than the last. Villagers flee their homes, screaming and clawing at their skin as if possessed. Some scratching wildly, others twisting in pain. The village elder, once the pillar of the community, collapses to the ground. His body convulsing, his eyes roll back in his head, and he begins muttering incorrectly. Words spilling from his lips that makes no sense. His wife and other villagers tried to help him, but the moment they touched him, they too were overtaken by the curse. Their bodies shaking violently as though possessed by something far beyond their understanding. Nala watches, her expression unreadable as chaos unfolds around her. She steps forward, her glowing eyes scanning the village, but she makes no move to intervene. The gods have marked them, and now the curse has begun its relentless spread. The village is now a haunting reflection of the curse that has befallen it. The once bustling square is now quiet, save for the distant wails of the cursed villagers and the faint shifting movement of the creepy shadows. The god's presence still lingers, a dark cloud hanging over everything. And thus, the villagers faces great famine until the gods finally forgive them many generations later for shedding innocent blood in the disguise of their name. The end.